Welcome to a deep dive into 4 destructive habits that can quietly sabotage the respect others have for you. These aren't just fleeting quirks or harmless slip-ups we all make from time to time. They're behaviors that strike at the heart of how we connect with people, capable of unraveling promising friendships, professional alliances, or even family ties in an instant. You might be tempted to shrug and say, "Everyone has flaws," and that's true. We're all human, after all. But the habits we're about to explore are uniquely damaging, not because they're rare, but because they erode the very foundation of trust and dignity that relationships depend on. Left unchecked, they don't just annoy others. They signal a lack of character that can leave you isolated and undervalued. To make this real, I'll open up about my own journey. I've stumbled through these pitfalls myself, and trust me, the lessons came with their share of sting. From careless words that fractured friendships to broken promises that dimmed my reputation, I've got stories, raw, honest, and a little messy, that I'll share along the way. These aren't polished anecdotes meant to impress. They're moments I'm not proud of, but they've taught me more about respect than any lecture ever could. By laying them bare, I hope you'll see yourself in them too, and together, we can figure out how to rise above. This isn't just about self-reflection, though. It's about transformation. We'll lean on the timeless wisdom of Stoicism, a philosophy that's less about gritting your teeth through life's storms and more about building a core of peace, integrity, and strength. Thinkers like Epictetus and Seneca didn't just endure. They thrived by mastering themselves, and their insights still hold up today. Whether it's silencing the urge to gossip or standing firm on your word, Stoicism offers a roadmap to a life where respect isn't demanded but earned naturally. So, grab something warm to sip, settle in, and let's unpack this together. These habits might feel familiar, maybe even comfortable, but they're holding you back more than you realize. By the end, you'll have the tools to shed them and step into relationships, personal and professional, that reflect the best of who you can be. Ready? Let's get started. Habit 1. Gossiping. Let's kick things off with a habit that's sneaky, seductive, and far more destructive than it seems. Gossiping. It's the kind of behavior most of us have dipped our toes into at some point, maybe even reveled in, because it feels good in the moment. A juicy tidbit about someone else's life can spark a thrill, a sense of belonging, like you're part of an exclusive club trading secrets. I'll admit it, I used to be hooked on it. Back in my college days, gossip wasn't just a pastime. It was practically an Olympic sport. My friends and I would huddle up, picking apart every detail of other people's lives. Who was dating who flunked what, who said something dumb. It felt harmless, even fun, like we were bonding over these shared dissections. But here's the truth I learned the hard way. Gossip isn't a quirky little vice. It's a toxin that seeps into relationships, corroding trust and stripping away respect faster than you'd believe. I've got a story that still stings to tell. There was this girl in our circle. Let's call her Emily. She was quiet, a little odd, the kind of person who didn't quite blend into our loud, judgmental pack. One day, I got wind that she had a crush on a guy we all knew, a popular type, someone we figured was miles out of her reach. Instead of keeping it to myself, I spilled it to the group. We laughed, spun it into a running joke, and before long, the story had legs of its own. It spread like wildfire across campus. When Emily found out, I'll never forget her face, pale, betrayed, like something inside her just broke. She didn't yell or confront us. She just faded away, stopped showing up, left the group entirely. At the time, I brushed it off with a shrug, college drama, right? But deep down, I knew I'd crossed a line. I'd taken something private, something vulnerable, and turned it into entertainment. That wasn't just mean. It was a betrayal of trust, and it cost me her respect, and honestly, a piece of my own. The Stoics, like Epictetus, would have seen right through that mess. They teach us to zero in on what really matters. Our own character, our own actions. Keep silence for the most part, Epictetus said, and speak only when you must, and then briefly. Gossiping isn't just a waste of breath, it's a betrayal of that principle. When you indulge, you're not just meddling in someone else's business, you're poisoning the air around you. People notice. They start wondering, what's he saying about me when I'm not around? It's a slow drip of suspicion that turns every relationship into a minefield. I learned that lesson again years later, at my first real job. There was a co-worker, let's call him John, who kept to himself but worked harder than anyone. One day, I overheard something through the office grapevine. He was dealing with a serious health issue. Instead of respecting his privacy, I shared it with a couple of colleagues, framing it as interesting news. Word got back to John, and he didn't explode. He just looked at me, hurt flickering in his eyes, and said, "I thought I could trust you to keep that quiet." No anger, just disappointment. Our working relationship never recovered. I'd lost his respect, and it was a gut punch I deserved. That's the thing about gossip. It's a double-edged sword. It doesn't just hurt the person you're talking about. It reveals a crack in your own integrity. The Stoics believe conversations should lift people up, not tear them down. When you gossip, you're not just disrespecting someone else's privacy. You're showing the world you're more interested in drama than dignity. And here's the kicker. If someone's happy to gossip to you, they're just as likely to gossip about you. I found that out when my own careless words circled back to haunt me, whispered behind my back by the same people I'd confided in. It was a wake-up call. Gossip doesn't build connection, it builds walls. Breaking this habit isn't easy, especially when it feels so natural. But it starts with a shift. Respect people's boundaries. Everyone's got their struggles, their private battles. Don't turn them into your small talk. Next time you're tempted to spill, pause. Ask yourself, is this worth the trust it might cost me? Focus on what's constructive. Talk that builds, not breaks. It's a lesson I've had to learn through pain, but it's one that's reshaped how I show up in the world. Gossip might feel like a shortcut to closeness, but it's a dead-end road to respect. Habit 2. Being unreliable. Next up is a habit that sneaks up on you, chipping away at respect until there's nothing left to stand on. Being unreliable. It's not loud or flashy like some flaws. It's quiet, subtle, and all the more dangerous for it. Reliability is the bedrock of any relationship, whether you're a friend, a colleague, or a partner. When people can't count on you, they don't just get annoyed. They stop seeing you as someone worth their trust. I used to think flakiness was no big deal, just a byproduct of a busy life. Everyone's got a lot on their plate, right? But I learned through some bruising moments that unreliability isn't a small quirk. It's a signal that your word doesn't hold weight, and that's a fast track to losing respect. I've got a memory that still nags at me from my early 20s. Back then, my friends had me pegged as the flaky one, the guy who'd say yes to everything but follow through on almost nothing. I'd toss out promises like confetti, thinking it didn't matter if I dropped a few. One time, my close friend Sarah was throwing her birthday party. She'd spent weeks planning it, buzzing with excitement over every detail: food, music, the works. I told her I'd be there, no question. But the day of, something shiny caught my eye, a last-minute distraction I can't even recall now, and I bailed. Didn't call, didn't text, just let the hours slip by. When I finally checked in, well after the party had started, her voice on the phone was flat, laced with hurt. She didn't chew me out. She didn't need to. The silence said it all. After that, things shifted. She stopped inviting me to hang out, and our friendship faded into something distant. I'd let her down when it mattered, and it wasn't just about missing a party. It was about showing her that my promises were disposable. That wasn't the only time unreliability bit me. Early in my career, I carried that same careless streak into the workplace. I'd take on projects with big nods and bigger smiles, swearing I could handle it all. But then deadlines would creep up, and I'd falter. Late submissions, half-baked excuses, the whole routine. I thought my charm could gloss over it, that a quick apology would smooth the edges. It didn't. During a performance review, my boss cut through the fluff. "Your work's solid when it shows up," she said, "but people don't know if they can rely on you. That's a problem." Her words landed like a brick. I'd been coasting, assuming my talent could carry me, but talent means little if no one trusts you to deliver. Colleagues stopped looping me in on big tasks, and I couldn't blame them. Every missed deadline was a crack in the trust I'd failed to build. Unreliability doesn't just inconvenience people. It tells them their time, their effort, doesn't matter to you. It's a quiet disrespect that builds up over time. If you say you'll show up, show up. If you commit to something, see it through. That's not just about keeping promises. It's about integrity, about proving your word has value. The Stoics would nod at this. They were all about consistency, about aligning your actions with your intentions. Seneca might have said it's not enough to mean well. You've got to follow through, because that's where character lives. Flaking out isn't just a logistical slip. It's a hit to your reputation, a message that you're more about talk than substance. So how do you fix it? It starts with honesty, brutal, unflinching honesty with yourself. Stop saying yes to things you can't handle. I had to learn to look at my limits and own them, to quit overpromising just to look good. If you make a commitment, treat it like a contract, non-negotiable unless the world's falling apart. And if something does go sideways, don't ghost, communicate. A heads up shows you still respect the other person, even if you can't deliver. I started small, showing up when I said I would, meeting deadlines I'd set for myself. It wasn't flashy, but it worked. Friends noticed. Colleagues noticed. Slowly, I went from the guy who might not show to someone they could lean on. Being reliable isn't glamorous. It's steady, unglamorous work. But it's powerful. It's how you prove you value the people around you, how you build a name that holds weight. I lost a friendship and a chunk of my early career cred to figure that out, but it's a lesson I won't forget. When you're solid, people don't just respect you, they trust you. And that's worth more than any excuse in the book. Habit 3, interrupting others. Let's move on to a habit that's so common it almost feels normal, yet it's a quiet killer of respect: interrupting others. It's one of those things you might not even clock as a problem. Maybe you think it shows passion, quick thinking, or just how eager you are to contribute. I used to see it that way. I'd cut into conversations like it was a game, jumping in with my 2 cents before anyone else could finish theirs. I figured it made me look sharp, engaged, like I was one step ahead. But the truth hit me hard. Interrupting isn't clever or charming. It's a glaring sign of disrespect. It screams, "What I've got to say matters more than you." And it leaves people feeling dismissed, unheard, and undervalued. It's not just rude. It's a habit that frays connections and costs you the regard you might not even realize you're losing. I've got a story that still makes me wince. Early in my career, I was part of a team with weekly brainstorming sessions, high-energy meetings where ideas flew fast. I wanted to stand out, to prove I belonged, so I'd leap in mid-sentence whenever a thought struck me. Someone would be pitching an idea, and I'd barrel over them with, "Oh, that's good. But what if we..." Like I was some genius improving the script. I thought I was killing it. Then one day, in the thick of a heated discussion, my manager stopped the room cold. "Hang on," she said, locking eyes with me. "You need to let people finish. You're not listening. You're just waiting to talk." Her tone wasn't harsh, just matter of fact, but it stung. The meeting went on, but I felt the weight of it. Afterward, a teammate pulled me aside. "You don't even see how it lands," she said. "It's like you think no one else's ideas count." That hit deeper. I hadn't meant to come off as arrogant, but that's exactly how I'd been acting, steamrolling people to flex my own voice. It wasn't just at work, either. I remember a night out with friends at a bar, one of those rare times when someone opens up about something real. A buddy was mid-story, sharing how anxiety had been grinding him down, his voice low, deliberate, like he'd been holding it in for months. Halfway through, I jumped in with, "Oh, I totally get that. I've had days where, thinking I was building a bridge." He stopped, stared at me, and said, "Can I finish?" The air shifted. What I'd meant as solidarity landed like I'd hijacked his moment, turning his vulnerability into my spotlight. He didn't say much after that, and the night felt off. I'd robbed him of being heard, all because I couldn't wait my turn. That's when it clicked. Interrupting isn't just about timing. It's about presence. It's about giving people the space to exist without you crowding them out. The Stoics would have had my number on this one. Seneca, in particular, was big on patience in dialogue, listening not just to hear, but to understand. He'd argue that cutting someone off shows a lack of self-discipline, a failure to value what's unfolding in front of you. It's not enough to nod along. You've got to be there, fully, letting the other person's words land before you weigh in. I wasn't doing that. I was too busy rehearsing my next line. And the cost? People stop trusting you with their thoughts. Why share if you're just going to get trampled? Over time, I noticed it. Teammates hesitated to speak up around me. Friends kept stories shorter. I'd built a reputation as someone who cared more about being heard than hearing. Breaking this habit takes work, but it's worth it. It starts with catching yourself, feeling that itch to interrupt, and sitting on it. I had to train myself to bite my tongue, to let silence hang a beat longer than felt natural. Active listening became my lifeline. focusing on the speaker, not my response. It's simple, but it shifts everything. In meetings, I started waiting, really taking in what people said before adding on. With friends, I let them finish their threads, even when my brain was buzzing. The difference was night and day. People opened up more, leaned in closer. They felt seen, and that's when I realized respect isn't about what you say, but how you let others be heard. Interrupting might feel like enthusiasm, but it's a mask for impatience. The Stoics knew real strength lies in restraint, in lifting others up by giving them room. Try it next time you're tempted to cut in. Listen, truly listen. You'll learn more, connect deeper, and earn a kind of respect that shouting over people can never buy. Habit 4, complaining. Let's wrap up with a habit that's easy to fall into and tough to shake, complaining. It's the kind of behavior that slips out almost unnoticed, a grumble here, a whine there, until it's your default soundtrack. We've all vented now and then, and sure, a little steam letting can feel good. But when complaining becomes chronic, it's not just annoying, it's corrosive. It drains your energy, sours your mood, and turns you into a black hole that people start dodging. I used to think it was harmless, even bonding, a way to connect over shared gripes. But I learned the hard way that constant negativity doesn't draw people in. It pushes them away, leaving your respect in tatters. I've got a story that still echoes. A few years back, I landed a job that felt like a pressure cooker. Endless tasks, chaotic management, and a nagging sense I wasn't valued. Instead of tackling it head-on, I leaned into complaining. Every chance I got, I'd unload, to coworkers over coffee, to friends at happy hour, even to my family on the phone. The workload's insane, I'd moan. The boss doesn't get it. On and on, a broken record of discontent. At first, people played along, nodding, tossing in their own woes, like we were in some misery club. But then I noticed the shift. Eyes glazing over mid-rant. Conversations shrinking to polite ahas. One day, a close friend cut through the noise. "I love you," she said, "but you're exhausting lately. It's all so negative." That landed like a slap. I'd become the guy people braced themselves to be around, not the one they wanted to hang out with. Invites dried up, and I couldn't ignore why. My whining had turned me into a buzzkill. It wasn't just personal, either. I saw it play out in a college group project that still sticks with me. We had a teammate, let's call him Mike, who could complain like it was his job. Every meeting, he'd derail us. The assignment was unfair, the professor was clueless, the whole thing was pointless. At first, we'd commiserate, but his nonstop griping infected the vibe. Our energy tanked, morale hit the floor, and we slogged through just to be done, not to do our best. Watching Mike from the outside flipped a switch for me. I'd been him, maybe not as loud, but just as toxic. My own complaints had likely dragged others down the same way, sapping the life out of teams and friendships without me even clocking it. The Stoics would have seen this coming a mile away. They were laser-focused on what's in your control and letting go of what's not. Complaining, to them, is a trap. It keeps you stuck on the problem, not the fix. Seneca might have said it's a waste of breath, a sign you're choosing victimhood over action. And he'd be right. It's not just about feeling bad. It's about broadcasting it, painting yourself as someone who'd rather stew than solve. People don't respect that. They tune out, pull back, because who wants to orbit a cloud of gloom? I'd lost that memo somewhere along the way, but the fallout, shorter chats, fewer invites, spelled it out clear enough. So how do you kick it? For me, it started with a hard pivot. I'd been wallowing about that job, so I flipped the script. Instead of griping about the chaos, I zeroed in on what I could change. Felt undervalued? I asked for feedback, made a case for a raise. Management a mess? I streamlined what I could touch, my own workflow, my corner of the madness. It wasn't magic, it took grit, and the job didn't transform overnight. But my attitude did. I leaned into gratitude, small wins, a steady paycheck, a chance to grow. People noticed. Coworkers stopped dodging me. Friends lingered longer in conversations. I wasn't the complainer anymore. I was the guy who showed up, not just physically but mentally. Breaking this habit isn't about bottling up every frustration. It's about balance. Vent when you need to, then move on. The Stoics nailed it. Focus on solutions, on what's yours to shape. I started catching myself mid-whine, asking, okay, what can I do? Sometimes the answer's nothing, and that's fine, let it go. Other times, it's a step forward, and that's power. Complaining might feel like release, but it's a leash tying you to the negative. Cut it, and you'll see. People don't just stick around, they respect you for it. I went from someone they avoided to someone they sought out, and that shift, it's everything. Conclusion. So here we are, at the end of this journey through 4 habits: gossiping, unreliability, interrupting, and complaining, that can quietly dismantle the respect we hold in others' eyes. These aren't just bad days or slip-ups. They're patterns that, if left unchecked, erode trust, fracture relationships, and dim the way we're seen. But here's the good news. Recognizing them is the first step to breaking free. Each story I've shared, those raw, humbling moments of my own missteps, shows that change isn't just possible, it's within reach. We don't have to stay stuck. By facing these flaws head-on, we can rewrite how we show up in the world, trading toxicity for something stronger, something worth respecting. This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. The Stoics, with their steady wisdom, light the way. Epictetus and Seneca didn't preach flawless lives. They taught us to master what we can, to build integrity through action, not just intent. Gossip less, and you guard trust. Keep your word, and you prove your worth. Listen fully, and you honor others. Swap complaints for solutions, and you lift the room instead of dragging it down. These aren't grand gestures. They're quiet shifts, daily choices that stack up over time. And the payoff? Relationships that endure, a reputation that holds weight, a life that feels aligned with who you want to be. I've walked this path myself. From the sting of losing friends to the slow rebuild of credibility, I've seen what's possible when you let go of these habits. It's not always easy. Old ways die hard, but it's liberating. People start to see you differently, not as the flake, the interrupter, or the downer, but as someone solid, present, and uplifting. That's the kind of respect that sticks, the kind you earn by showing up as your best self. Thanks for sticking with me through this. If it hit home, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who might need it, and maybe subscribe for more. Let's keep pushing to live better, not just for ourselves, but for everyone we cross paths with. Until next time, stay steady, stay intentional, and let's build lives that echo the strength of the Stoics. You've got this.